Hello, and welcome back to the Wellness Pharmacist, where we explore today the intersection of natural remedies and modern science to enhance our health. I'm Dr. Kat, and in this episode, we will be discussing the health benefits of camel milk. Yep, camel milk. I did another episode previously, and I said I'd come back to this one, and here we are. Camel milk has been a staple in many cultures for centuries. It's often referred to as white desert gold. White desert gold. Recent scientific studies have begun to uncover the reasons behind this revered status, highlighting its antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and immunomodulatory properties. In this episode, we'll explore the composition of camel milk, its potential health benefits, and of course, how it might fit into your wellness regimen. So let's get started. What is the composition of camel milk? Camel milk differs significantly from cow's milk, which is what we're basically given at the age of a year up in the northern hemisphere anyway, or in the western hemisphere. That's pretty much what I'm familiar with. So around the world, though, we drink cow's milk. Got camel's milk on the brain. So, it's been interesting to me to do this research and find out more about different types of milk, because I'm also familiar with goat milk, but when you start looking at some of the other milks out there, especially camel, it is surprising. So that's the episode. But there's also so many differences between them. And that's what struck me as extremely fascinating. So what is in cow's milk? Well, there's percentage protein, lactose, and ash. And ash is basically a combination of a lot of different kind of minerals of the likes, such as calcium, phosphorus, sodium, potassium, chloride, iodine, magnesium, and even small amounts of iron. So when we talk about ash, the percentage of ash, that's what we're talking about. So it's just a plethora of things. When we look at cow's milk, we have a fat percentage, so 4.5% of it is on average fat. What does that mean in the grand scheme of things related to camel milk? Okay, well, for cow, we have 4.5% fat, protein 3.8%, lactose 4.9%, and then that ash component with like calcium, phosphorus, iodine, those sorts of things, 0.72%. Now, when we look at camel milk, the fat is 4.9%. So that's about half a percentage more fat. Protein is 3.7%, so about the same, 3.8%, 3.7%. Lactose, there's 5.1% lactose in camel milk versus cow's 4.9%. And ash is basically the same at 0.7% to 0.72%, camel versus cow. Okay, that's great. Now what about human milk? Okay, so breast milk is, again, like cow's milk, it's 4.5%. A little bit less, about half a percentage less than camel. Protein, though, is where we find a huge gap. So in human breast milk, we have 1.1% of it is protein. And then in camel and cow, you have around 3.7, 3.8%. So there's decrease there. Then it gets really interesting, lactose, because there's a lot of people out there that are lactose intolerant. Human milk is 6.8% lactose, whereas you've got camel at 5.1% and cow at 4.9%. I find that interesting because there's a lot of people out there that are, lactose intolerant. And so, my assumption would have been, there's less lactose, but there's not. There's more in human milk. Now, ash components, there's also less in human milk. So there's 0.2%, where pretty much everything else is 0.7, 0.72. We even have like goat milk as a reference is 0.79. So 0.2% is lower. Okay, So where the main differences are the protein and the lactose and ash in the human milk. So having said that, let's get further into the nitty-gritty of camel milk. So it has the fat, the more fat, and than human milk. But it also contains vitamins. So we've got vitamin C, A, E, D, and some group B vitamins. And the concentration of vitamin C in camel milk is 2 to 3 times higher than in cow's milk, and 6 times higher than human milk. 6 times higher. You know how they always say, especially in the United States, commercials about vitamin C, if you have a cold or something like that. Are you getting enough vitamin C, in oranges or citrus fruits, that sort of thing? And so people run to the store and get vitamin C and that sort of thing. Well, this is interesting. This is why, because vitamin C is, possesses antioxidants and has been anecdotally linked to helping with viruses and helping our bodies feel better when we're sick. On top of that, the vitamin C content in camel milk causes a low pH. Yes, we're going back to chemistry class, people. Science, it's wonderful. Low pH, and as a result of that low pH, it makes milk more stable. Wow, okay. This means longer shelf life. So not only are we getting like these health benefits from it, we have a longer shelf life. So again, we've got to look at some of the other differing components here. I want to focus in on the protein section. So we saw that camel has 3.7% of it is protein. In regard to this protein content, it's a mixture, though, of casein and whey protein. And if you're into athletics or anything like that, this will sound familiar, casein and whey protein, because there's a lot of products out there that are whey protein, just so you can get your protein requirements in for the day if you're a bodybuilder, weightlifter, runner, athlete, that sort of thing. So casein and whey protein. So we've got this mixture of that, like 3.8 or 3.7%. There's a range in camel milk depending on the time of year too, by the way, and go back to my previous episode for that, 3.73 to 3.89% total protein. Okay, of that total protein, we've got casein and whey. Now, the most important protein group in camel milk is casein. So of that, around 3.8%, up to 87% of it is casein. Now, casein has 4 main subtypes. We have alpha S1 casein. This is 22% of camel milk. We have alpha S2 casein, which is 9.5%. Beta casein, which is 65%. And kappa casein, which is 3.5%. Okay. There's a point to this. Hang on with me. The alpha S1 casein is lacking in human breast milk. Okay, humans don't have this alpha S1 casein, which is only 22% in camel milk too. Why is this important? This alpha S1 casein is a major cause of milk allergies in humans. Okay, so it doesn't exist in human milk. It's in a low percentage, 22% in camel milk. Now we look at cow milk, and it's much more abundant in cow milk. So this particular study that I was looking at shows that it's much more abundant. Doesn't say how much more abundant, just says more abundant. And then it also compared buffalo milk, saying buffalo milk has much more of this alpha S1 casein. That is a major cause of milk allergies. Okay, all right. But what about the whey protein, right? Okay, so let's go to the whey protein. Whey protein is about 20% of the total protein of camel milk. So the rest, obviously, around 80%, I said, is the casein. Now we have about 20% of whey, and this includes many different things. You've got, they listed alpha lactalbumin, serum albumin, lysozyme, LF, lactoperoxidase, and there's a few more tossed in there. However, the main protein, which is like 55% of this whey component, is beta-lactoglobulin. And alpha LA, which is alpha lactoalbumin, which is the second most abundant in cow's milk. Okay, about 20%. In camel and human milk, though, this alpha lactoalbumin is the major component of whey protein. It's the second most in cow's milk, but it's the most major component of whey protein in the camel and human breast milk. Alpha lactalbumin. In addition to this, human milk lacks that beta-lactoglobulin. They don't have it. Humans don't have that. And why is this important again? Well, this is one of the most bullseye components behind milk allergies in humans. So you have in the casein, we have much less of it in camel milk. It lacks in human milk. Okay. And then with the whey components, it lacks this beta-lactoglobulin. Okay. Behind milk allergies, it lacks it too. And yet it's there in cow's milk. But it's also not there, in camel. So it's interesting to me. It's there, but I should say, forgive me, it's there, but, that's interesting to me. The cow's milk, the major whey protein, is beta-lactoglobulin, which is the reason why a lot of people will have milk allergies. It's also the main whey protein in buffalo, sheep, and goat milk too, by the way. That's interesting. So, again, we just have a better allergy profile of camel milk, all in a nutshell. We have high levels of vitamin C, which adds and contributes to its antioxidant properties. Antioxidants are great because we're talking, it helps with viruses, it helps with anti-cancer issues. We have bioactive proteins in it. We also have immunoglobulins in it. But when I say, let me go back to the bioactive proteins. Bioactive proteins like lactoferrin, why is this important? They're known for antimicrobial, so it's against bacteria. It helps fight against bacteria, and it's anti-inflammatory. And so I like that when I hear that as someone with autoimmune disease, because we're always inflamed. So cow milk works against that inflammation. It helps. Immunoglobulins. Okay, what are immunoglobulins? Well, they support our immune system. We have a number of them, okay, including, let's see, like IgG, IgA. But why is this important? We have IgG, IgM, IgA, and IgD in camel milk. But again, why is this important? Well, they aren't in as high quantities in human milk or any other mammal's milk that I've mentioned. So this is particularly unique to camel milk. And immunoglobulins are responsible for fighting bacterial infections, viral infections. It's shown promise even in tuberculosis, hepatitis. Also, these immunoglobulins in camel milk are smaller than human immunoglobulins and can therefore be absorbed into our bodies, like in our gastrointestinal tract, and reach our tissues and cells that human immunoglobulins can't do. And if you're following me, this aids in healing and it helps boost our immune system's health. It helps fight so many things. And that's a really good thing, especially with autoimmune disease, chronic illness, that sort of thing. Camel milk also has insulin-like proteins in it, which may aid in glucose metabolism, which is sugar metabolism. So for all you pre-diabetic and diabetic people out there, it has insulin-like proteins. There are studies to show that it helps with prediabetes and diabetes. We have a lipid profile. So let's look at lipids. Camel milk has linoleic acid. And linoleic acid in studies improves that low-density lipoprotein, that bad cholesterol we talk about in doctors' offices. And it improves this LDL to HDL ratio. And HDL is high-density lipoprotein, HDL good cholesterol. It does this by lowering triglyceride levels. And that's like the fats in our bloodstream, the fats that are just kind of floating around. And so it improves our cholesterol levels. This is great. And in bone tissue, it's been shown to produce anti-inflammatory cytokines. And this anti-inflammatory cytokine thing changes the concentration of insulin-like growth factor, resulting in bone formation, resulting in increased muscle mass for you athletes out there, and decreasing subcutaneous fat. That is so interesting to me. I mean, camel milk has all these things. So we got lipid profiles, so fats like triglycerides, LDL, HDL, insulin-like proteins for prediabetes and diabetes. We have immunoglobulins, which can actually get into our tissues and stuff better than our own immunoglobulins can, helping fighting against viruses, bacteria, tuberculosis potentially, hepatitis. I mean, high levels of vitamin C. So then, again, helping us with viruses and maybe cancers. And we have anti-inflammatory properties of it. It's amazing to me. And yet we in the West, right, just haven't really known about it. It's just been sitting there. It's been sitting there. Waiting to be found. No, it's been found. I mean, obviously. But I understand why they consider it white desert gold. These components obviously work together synergistically, is what we would say, to provide health benefits beyond just, basic nutrition. Now, when I mention antioxidant properties, what I'm seeing is there's something called oxidative stress. Oxidative stress is caused by an imbalance between free radicals, the bad boys, and antioxidants, the good things in the body. So there's an imbalance, oxidative stress imbalance. This oxidative stress is linked to various chronic diseases, autoimmune diseases. Camel milk antioxidants like vitamin C, alpha-lactalbumin, beta-caseins, they help neutralize the free radicals and then potentially reducing our risks for things like cardiovascular disease, heart attacks, strokes, and even certain cancers. So that's what I mean about antioxidants. Now, let's go a little bit further into anti-inflammatories. So chronic inflammation is this common denominator. Yes, math. I'm guilty. Common denominator in loads of things, including arthritis and autoimmune disease. We've got hepatitis, allergies, lactose intolerance, liver damage, swelling like edema, fluid or swelling like fluid accumulation in our bodies. And there have been animal studies that have shown that camel milk can reduce also osteoarthritis. There's a kidney protective element to it. It improves type 1 diabetes. It helps in colon cancer, gastric ulcers, so stomach ulcers, and even neurotoxicity. So it's got this component to it that helps with so many inflammatory conditions. Lots of inflammatory responses are either reduced or they're even stopped with camel milk. And of course, this is a key component in autoimmune disease. So in a nutshell, these are all really good things. And of course, we've got the immunoglobulins. Let's not forget those. I've kind of already gone over that. What are the potential therapeutic applications here? That's obviously probably on your mind. Given its uniqueness, camel milk is being studied currently for a few other things. Diabetes management. So it's insulin-like protein, improving those sugars, sugar uptake and insulin sensitivity. So that's in type 2 diabetes, insulin sensitivity. And type 1 diabetes, we just basically lose our pancreas to produce the insulin. Now, it's very curious to me because a lot of the time in diabetes care, insulin helps with both type 1 and type 2, but you really don't get components to help both like that. What people can take for type 2 is to increase the amount of insulin being secreted, which you obviously can't do in type 1. So this is interesting that it can help with both type 1 and type 2. And so again, it just helps the body take up that sugar out of our bloodstream. And it does this by allowing the insulin to really recognize that sugar attached to it and then take it into our tissues, because that's how sugar gets out of our bloodstream. We have to have the insulin. It has to be able to identify the sugar. And when we have insulin insensitivity in type 2 diabetes, right, we can have a ton of insulin in our system, except it's not recognizing the sugar. So the sugars also build up. So our bodies are saying, hey, we need more insulin, so we're getting more insulin, and yet our sugars still go up because it's not recognizing the sugar. So what this is basically doing is it's taking the blindfolds off the insulin and saying, oop, look, there's the sugar. And then it takes the sugar out of your system into your muscles or into storage, so that the sugar in your bloodstream comes down. And then you don't have as many, obviously, of the problems, right, of type 1 or type 2 diabetes. Again, there's another thing that they're studying, which is allergy relief. So hay fever. I got that too. Some studies suggest camel milk can help with food allergies and a skin condition called eczema. And that's interesting because there is a link between allergies and autoimmune disease too, by the way. And I know everybody out there, most of you with autoimmune disease, if you've been if you've been living with your condition for long enough, you realize those. You probably have some allergies too. And then in digestive health, they are studying it for hypoallergenic properties. What this means is that it makes it's better for people with lactose intolerance and cow's milk allergies. So these are just some of the studies that are being studied right now. And while camel milk offers all these, it's like help, right? It sounds great. So why aren't we drinking this? What is going on? Well, there's a few important things to consider here. The availability of it. Okay, camel milk is not as readily accessible as cow's milk because it's just pretty much in one general area of the world that's being produced. And there are some components to it. So if you get the camel milk right after birth, it has different varying components and stronger, actually better than if it were 6 months down the road after birthing. Okay, so and depending on the time of year, how hydrated it is, that sort of thing, it all kind of affects some of these properties. All in all, camel milk is still very nutritious and good for you. The availability, though, is an issue. There are only so many camels out there, right? And it's not like dairy farms that we just don't have camel farms like that. So it's not as accessible, which means you can get it. You just have to kind of search for it. The cost, right? Supply and demand. Economics, guys, economics. So it will be much more expensive than the other milk alternatives, much more expensive. And then, of course, some people don't like the taste. Apparently, I've never had it. I'd like to try it. I've never had it. It's slightly salty, apparently, and somebody mentions an earthy flavor. If you've ever had it, please let me know. I'm really curious to what you think. They say it looks like regular milk, but it's slightly salty and, of course, earthy. So there may be an adjustment period for that because it just tastes different than cow's milk, because it's camel milk. Having said all that, always consult a healthcare professional of your own team before starting any kind of new food, drinks, supplements, medication, anything. Especially if you have existing health conditions, autoimmune conditions, chronic illnesses, or concerns. Why? Because they know you best. They know you best. They have your records. They know you. So please talk to them. This is for informational purposes. Please talk to them. The other thing I want to mention is pasteurization. So there are varying studies, and I have to put that out there. Some people say with cow's milk, we pasteurize it. So we heat it, right, to get some of the bacteria and stuff out of it. There are some studies that say that pasteurization process of camel milk basically wipes out all the health benefits. There are other studies that say, no, it doesn't. It doesn't do anything to them. It's great. And then there are still other studies that say, well, as long as you don't go over like 60 degrees Celsius, it maintains the benefits. So again, more studies need to be done, okay, and on this. But I thought it was really exciting to me anyway that there's this thing out there that there's loads of people that don't know about it. So I just wanted to have an episode on it. Again, jury's out on that. We will see. They are doing more studies, so that is good. And yeah, that's pretty exciting. So camel milk presents this like really interesting natural, people say natural option with potential health benefits supported by emerging scientific, evidence-based medicine research. And as we continue to kind of go down this path of traditional remedies that have been there for hundreds of years, right, to modern science, these discoveries remind us that there's a plethora of knowledge out there in ancient practices that we really need in the Western science world, right? That we really need to look at. It's been there for that long for a reason. I'm all for looking at alternative, what people call alternative herbal remedies and that sort of thing. But this has been there. It's been helping people for thousands of years. So I'm all for learning about it. And that's why we had this episode today. So thank you for joining me on this episode of the Wellness Pharmacist. This was an interesting journal article for me. I love reading about this stuff. And if you want to read more on it, you can. It's in Frontier Immunology. It's a 2022 April 12th publication. It's called The Antioxidant, Anti-Inflammatory, and Immunomodulatory Effects of Camel Milk. So if you want to look it up, there you go. Okay. I encourage you to do so. And especially if you're interested in it, please look it up. Please research it for yourself and be armed with that information when you talk to your healthcare team. And if you found this discussion insightful, helpful, intriguing, please subscribe and also share it. Share it with other people interested in these kind of alternative health medicine, this alternative health medicine area. Please share it with them. And also talk to your doctors about it. It's curious, isn't it? It's fun. So thank you again so much for listening. Until next time, please stay well, stay informed, and also be your own advocate. Thank you for listening again. We'll talk soon.